ready to swap those star ratings for something a little more insightful. Today, we're diving deep into what it really takes to be a critic. And spoiler alert, it's way more than just having an opinion.
It really is. It's about turning your passion, whether it's film or music or even food, into a viable career path. And honestly, that's no easy feat.
And thankfully, we've got some help figuring all that out today because we've been digging into RoleCatcher, they're a career platform, and wow, I'm impressed. They cover everything from like building a standout CV to actually navigating the job market.
It's clear they understand how competitive the landscape is for creative professionals, and it seems like they've really tailored their platform to give those aspiring critics a leg up.
So let's get into it. What does a critic actually do? I mean, it's got to be more than just saying, I loved it, or
Yeah.
this is terrible.
Yeah. You're right. It goes way beyond just giving a thumbs up or thumbs down. It's about deep analysis. A critic, they break down the elements of whatever their chosen field is, whether that's music or art or even video games these days. They understand all the nuances, the history, the context, and then they have to articulate those insights in a way that resonates.
Okay, so that makes sense. But it's not like they're just writing a simple review for a newspaper anymore.
You took the thought right out of my mouth. Social media has completely changed how critics connect with their audience these days. It's not just about writing well, it's this whole other thing. It's about building a personal brand, engaging with your followers, and honestly, even handling criticism yourself. RoleCatcher brought up all of that, which I thought was really interesting.
Now that you mention it, I do remember them talking about things like sales and marketing and customer service as being important skills for critics, which honestly, the first time I saw that, I was like, wait, what? How does that even relate?
Well, it all goes back to how the role of the critic is evolving, right? Think about it. To build a following these days, you kind of have to understand marketing. Like, how are you going to market yourself? How are you going to engage with your audience? How are you going to handle any feedback, good or bad, constructively? It's almost like running your own business where your insights are the product.
So it's not enough to just be a good writer if you want to make it as a critic today. You have to be an entrepreneur.
Exactly. You have to be comfortable putting yourself out there, building relationships, and honestly, constantly adapting to this crazy media landscape that just won't stop changing. And speaking of challenges, RoleCatcher didn't shy away from the not-so-glamorous side of being a critic. They mentioned facing potential backlash, navigating subjectivity, and even just the uncertainty of job stability. So how does someone even begin to wrap their head around all of that?
Yeah, it's not always pretty. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. But when you think about it, other creative fields face those same kinds of hurdles.
Yeah. If you're a musician or a filmmaker, you're putting yourself out there. You're dealing with criticism, rejection, the whole nine yards. It's really about resilience at the end of the day. Finding your niche, becoming a master of your craft.
And in this age of social media, where it seems like everyone and their dog have a platform, how does a critic actually build credibility? Like, how do they cut through all that noise and establish themselves as a voice worth listening to?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And RoleCatcher actually gave us some clues about that. When they break down the stages of a critic's career, it was actually really fascinating.
Oh, yeah, they had that whole breakdown from like entry-level critic to junior critic all the way up to senior critic.
Right.
And it was interesting to see how the actual work changes at each level. Like they said, an entry-level critic might be assisting more established critics, attending events, contributing to like smaller publications, or maybe doing some blogging.
Yeah, like getting their feet wet.
Exactly. But then as they progress, they start taking on bigger projects, maybe even managing a team of critics, contributing to those really well-respected publications. They said things like attending major events, interviewing prominent figures in the field.
Right, building your reputation, your network.
Yeah. So it's like leveling up in a video game almost.
Yeah.
You're gaining experience, honing those skills, and then it's like new opportunities. Those doors start opening.
Precisely.
What I'm curious about, though, are the less tangible qualities.
Okay.
Like what actually sets apart a critic who just kind of stays at that, entry level or junior level versus someone who actually ascends to thought leader status?
It's about going beyond just saying, I like this or I don't like this.
Uh,
Having that deep understanding of their chosen field, honing those critical thinking skills, being able to communicate their thoughts with, clarity, with persuasiveness, but also with nuance.
So it's not enough to just have an opinion. You have to be able to back it up with solid reasoning and research.
Exactly. And maybe even some historical context.
Right. Like really paint that picture.
Yeah. It's about enriching your audience's understanding and appreciation, even if they don't ultimately agree with your final take.
Okay, so that makes sense. So you're not just expressing your personal taste, you're providing a new way of looking at it.
Exactly. That's what makes you a respected voice in your field.
Okay, that totally makes sense. Now, remember how we were talking about those unexpected skills earlier? The marketing, customer service, that whole thing?
Yeah, it threw me for a loop at first.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, RoleCatcher had this section called Alternative Titles for Critic. And get this, some of the titles they listed were fact checker, journalist, vlogger, even blogger.
Which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense because the skill set of a really good critic, they're a skilled researcher, they're a fantastic communicator, they're an analytical thinker. Those are valuable assets no matter where you go.
So it's almost like you're training for a career in critical thinking itself, which opens up so many different doors.
Absolutely. And I think those alternative paths are almost like they appeal to different personality types who are drawn to this field.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Some people really thrive in those traditional media settings, right?
Yeah.
Whereas others might really love the independence of freelancing, of blogging, of kind of forging their own path.
Yeah. And, just thinking about all of that, those alternative career paths, it really highlights how transferable those core skills are. It's kind of cool.
It is. It speaks to the power of critical thinking in general, right? It's not about being a critic in the sense of just movies or music or whatever. It's about applying that kind of rigor to anything you do.
It's like you're training your brain to just approach everything with a more, I don't know, discerning and insightful perspective. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like you're always looking deeper, taking that extra step.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening, honestly.
Yeah.
It's one thing to just, like, have a favorite critic or follow reviews, but to actually break down what goes into it, what it takes to even become a critic, navigate this crazy media world. I mean, it's clearly a field that takes a ton of passion, but also adaptability. That's for sure.
Yeah, you have to be ready for anything.
For sure. And, as we're all out here consuming tons of media, movies, music, even that new video game everyone's talking about, it's important to remember what critics even bring to the table.
Oh, absolutely. They provide a lot of context and analysis and insights that, honestly, I don't think most people even consider half the time.
Right. It's like they're offering a whole new lens to look through.
Exactly. And just like a critic hones their craft, I think it's important for all of us as people who enjoy movies, music, all of it, we can do the same. Develop those critical thinking skills. Ask questions, look at things from different perspectives.
Be more than just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Exactly. Form your own informed opinions.
So there you have it. A deep dive into the world of criticism. We talked about essential skills, how the media landscape is changing things up, and honestly, how to cultivate a more critical eye in your own life. And a big thank you to RoleCatcher for being such a great resource for all of this.
Couldn't have done it without them.
Seriously. And for everyone listening, remember, whether you're thinking about a career as a critic or just want to be more thoughtful in how you see the world, that power of critical thinking is something anyone can develop.
It's a skill worth honing, that's for sure.